Right in the heart of Beijing, it was the home of emperors for 500 years. It has witnessed China's major political events during imperial times and ever since. The Forbidden City, its 900 halls and palaces, constitute the largest wooden building complex in the world. And its palace museum houses a vast collection of imperial artworks and artifacts from Ming and Qing times. Watch the Forbidden City on Journeys in Time.
Located in the Palace Museum is the Nansansuo compound, the place where Qing princes lived and studied. But today, it houses the museum's Department of Ancient Articles. This is Gang Baochang, and he has worked for the Palace Museum for nearly 50 years. His most important work has been to study and appraise works of porcelain. Porcelain products were once works that were unique to the people of China. They can be fiery, like the process from which they come, but they can also be elegant, like water. Ancient Chinese people used their minds and spirits to turn common clay into articles of beauty. Porcelain objects were used by Tang Empress Wu Zetian as precious containers to hold Buddhist relics. In the imperial court of Song Huizong, porcelain objects were used as elegant ornaments. Kublai Khan, the first emperor of the Yuan dynasty, used them as valuable commodities for foreign trade. Emperor Yongle presented works of porcelain as precious gifts to foreign envoys. Emperor Yongzheng even created works of porcelain art. Today, various essential utensils in the everyday life of Chinese people are made of porcelain. Fine works of porcelain are treasures that can be seen almost everywhere in this, the world's largest palace. And these items in the palace are an important part of the common cultural heritage of mankind. Of the 1.5 million items listed as cultural relics in the Palace Museum, 350,000 are porcelain objects. Of all these articles, Mr. Gung likes these two small porcelain cups the best. No more than 6 centimetres tall, the cups were made with porcelain painted in contending colours during the reign of Ming Emperor Chenghua, and they are among the most precious pieces in the Palace Museum. Gung saw them for the first time 70 years ago. The first owner of these cups was Emperor Chenghua. It was said that in 1481 the ministers in the court had not seen their emperor, Zhu Jianshen, for a considerable time, although the emperor was known to be making merry in the living quarters of the forbidden city with Wan, his favourite concubine. In order to win her heart, Emperor Chenghua ordered artisans in Jingzhezhen to make small, exquisite wine cups for her appreciation. Because these cups feature a hen and chicken pattern, they are called Chenghua chicken cups, and there are only about a dozen of them in the world. But porcelain cups painted in contending colours with butterfly, orchid and grass patterns are even more precious. In the entire world, only 2 of them are well preserved, and both are retained in the Palace Museum. They were praised by men of letters as the best drinking vessels in the world. More than 500 years have passed since the time of Emperor Chenghua, but some of the porcelain pieces appreciated by his concubine Wan are still retained in this palace, but others have been long dispersed all over the world. Most of the 350,000 works of porcelain retained in the palace, however, are unique to the palace, and there are many stories about these porcelain pieces and their owners who once lived in this palace. Most of the porcelain items have become regarded as classical artworks that the Chinese are naturally very proud of. Chinese scholars have always praised olive green porcelain pieces that have a feel of gentle jade and crystal clear ice. These are the oldest porcelain bottles retained among the Palace Museum collections. There are many stories about these porcelain bottles, some being about whether they even existed or not, while others revolved around their origin and names. Opinions varied as to all of these stories, and for a long time there were no final conclusions. Debate on these matters did not come to an end until 1987, when 13 olive green porcelain objects were unearthed at the underground palace of the Famen Temple in Shanxi. Since the founding of the People's Republic of China, the Palace Museum has bought just 3 olive green porcelain pieces. Even the emperors in the Ming and Qing dynasties didn't have easy access to these mysterious porcelain works, with Emperor Qianlong even composing a poem to express his feelings about them. Porcelain works made in the Yue kiln in the Tang dynasty can scarcely be found in the world, and porcelain works made in the official kilns of the northern Song dynasty can only be found in heaven. In the ancient history of China, the most rare and most beautiful things were often used exclusively by the imperial family. In Jingdezhen, in the second year of the reign of Ming Emperor Hongwu, the imperial kiln was officially established, the first official kiln in the true sense of the term in Chinese history. It was supervised and operated by the imperial court and used the best quality clay to be found. All the porcelain works produced in the imperial kiln were used exclusively by the imperial family, and they were not to be used and traded among the common people. All methods pertaining to kilning, along with related formulas, were highly confidential. The Ming Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang decided that all the vessels for offering sacrifices to heaven and earth should be changed to porcelain ones. He did this really for the sake of saving money, because at the time the sacrificial vessels were made of gold, silver and jade. Later, Ming Emperor Zhu Di took the lead in using porcelain bowls during meals instead of jade ones, and he also used porcelain works as burial objects and as gifts to countries affiliated with China. This blue and white porcelain cup was made during the reign of Ming Emperor Yongle, and today it is kept in the Palace Museum. The 4 Chinese characters on its inner bottom inform us that it was made during the reign of Emperor Yongle. This was the first cup from the official kilns to indicate the emperor's reign during which it was made. From that time on, all Chinese emperors enjoyed having their titles of the reign incorporated into the porcelain works made during their reign. This is one of the most distinguishing features of porcelain objects produced in the official kilns. With the support of its emperors, the production level of porcelain in the Ming dynasty improved greatly. At this time, artisans came to Jingdezhen from all parts of the country, and their porcelains were shipped to every corner of the world, causing Jingdezhen to become the center of the porcelain industry in China. A French missionary who visited Jingdezhen described a scene of porcelain production. In the daytime, thick smoke blots out the clouds. At night, the kiln fires make the sky red. Finished porcelain objects were taken by Chinese, Persian, Portuguese and British ships from Yangzhou, Guangzhou and Quanzhou to all the civilizations of India, the Arab Peninsula, Europe and even Africa. It was at that time that the most exquisite porcelain works of the highest quality made in Jingdezhen were transported to just one place, Beijing's Forbidden City. These porcelain works of art made in the official Ming dynasty kilns were transported into the imperial palace from Jingdezhen. At present, porcelain pieces made at the imperial kilns exclusively for the use of the imperial family are collected together in the Palace Museum. But besides these, there are also porcelain objects made in the Yuan and Ming dynasties created especially for exporting to overseas markets. And the most representative of all kinds of porcelain is, of course, blue and white porcelain. In an auction held by Christie's in Britain in July 2005, a blue and white Mount Guiguxia vase made in the Yuan dynasty was sold for 230 million yuan, making it the most valuable Asian artwork ever auctioned. This blue and white dish, made in the Yuan dynasty, is kept in the Palace Museum. This is a blue and white red underglazed vase, and as such it is more precious and rare than single-coloured blue and white porcelain works. Blue and white porcelain works were first made in the Tang dynasty, but they became highly popular in the Ming dynasty, and so the production of them reached a new zenith during the Ming dynasty, both in terms of quantity and quality. These are the most representative blue and white porcelain pieces made during the reigns of Emperor Yongle and Xuande, kept in the Palace Museum. They were made using smalt brought back by Zheng He from overseas. Smalt was used to produce a rich and gaudy colour, and there are some unique spots on the surface of these porcelain pieces. These spots are similar to the effect achieved by special techniques used in Chinese inkwash paintings. It was at this time that blue and white porcelain pieces became the most popular Chinese exports to Asia, Europe and Africa. From the Yuan dynasty to the Ming dynasty, numerous overseas ships loaded with porcelain pieces made in China sank in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Today, every salvage effort naturally brings about exciting discoveries. Porcelain works of art are delicate. During kilning under high temperatures, it is hard to predict and control the complicated changes that take place. So ancient Chinese people often commented that it was difficult to produce truly fine porcelain, and that doing so requires both favourable conditions and good craftsmanship. Many porcelain artisans failed to produce porcelain works that were truly fine in terms of shape, quality, pattern and colour during their entire lifetime. However, quality porcelain works that are so delicate have survived through the centuries to the present day, and the most representative porcelain works made in the official kilns during the Ming dynasty are collected together in the Palace Museum. If a piece of porcelain made in the imperial kilns was found to have a flaw, it would be thrown away on the spot. These are the ruins of the imperial kiln of the Ming dynasty in Jingdezhen, and here we can clearly see in the soil pieces of blue and white porcelain made in the official kilns at that time. In the Forbidden City, eunuchs were responsible for burying broken porcelain objects. According to records, in the Ming and Qing dynasties, if any porcelain object used in the imperial palace was damaged, it could not be disposed of in a casual manner. Such broken porcelain objects had to be buried in a special place, and not a single broken piece was allowed to be taken out of the palace. After the Palace Museum was established, a great number of porcelain pieces were found in many places at former palace construction sites, thus proving the record to be true. This is Bei Wusuo compound in the Palace Museum, and it is here that unearthed broken pieces of porcelain become the best specimens in the study of ancient porcelain. For this reason, cleaning porcelain pieces is one of the major tasks of the ceramics section of the Department of Ancient Articles in the Palace Museum.
他为什么也不写字？这问题啊，然后康熙的每块的东西，还是官窑还是民窑，
这光打一圈，
历史上啊就没有把它闹清楚。在过去俗常的约定成俗的一句话叫客货。客货是什么？就是外销的东西了，都为外销瓷了，没有不是官窑。有的就说是康熙皇帝本身呢不愿意让写皇帝的年款啊，说这瓷器容易打碎了以后就跟垃圾一样，给人扔了，把皇上那个扔了，这个所以康熙不好尊号。
Articles in the imperial court were usually marked with the influence of its emperors. The aesthetic taste of the emperors, along with their temperaments, hobbies and political ambitions, had great impact on the production of porcelain works. On the 7th day of the first lunar month of the 18th year of the reign of Qing Emperor Shunzhi, Emperor Kangxi ascended the throne at the age of 8. At this time, Wu Liangfu, a eunuch in charge of court affairs, was arrested and executed by Xiaozhuang, the Empress Dowager. The 13 eunuch-dominated government offices that had been set up in the Ming dynasty were abolished, and the office of the imperial household was established in their place. This office was now in charge of all imperial palace internal affairs. Workshops under this office took charge of the production of all articles used in the imperial court, and the office had dozens of departments. Thus, the production of porcelain was directly under the control of the office of the imperial household. Starting from Emperor Kangxi, Qing emperors devoted more time and energy to producing porcelain pieces than previous emperors had done. Emperor Kangxi's greatest contribution to China's porcelain industry was his decision to produce cloisonné enamel porcelain. French missionaries had presented Emperor Kangxi copper-bodied cloisonné enamels as tributes, and the emperor had fallen in love with the enamel pieces at first sight. He decided to produce this kind of enamel piece on a trial basis in the imperial court, and then to apply the enamel techniques to production of porcelain works. In order to make cloisonné enamel porcelain pieces, Emperor Kangxi set up the enamel workshop under the office of imperial household. Copper-bodied cloisonné enamels were the only porcelain pieces produced inside the imperial palace for the imperial family. When the plain colour porcelain objects were ready in Jingdezhen, they were then transported to the Forbidden City where, after court painters painted and coloured them, they were put into the kiln fire in the imperial court. The imperial kiln was located inside the Hall of Mental Cultivation, and this made it easier for Emperor Kangxi to supervise the process. It was unprecedented in China and the world over for porcelain works to be made in an imperial court under the direct instructions of an emperor. And in this case, it was even more extraordinary, as copper-bodied cloisonné enamel pieces had, after all, originated in the West. Kangxi became enthusiastic about gathering foreign missionaries who could paint. If the answer was in the affirmative, the missionary would be invited to the imperial palace to help make cloisonné enamel works, even if he was not particularly keen to do so. In March of the 56th year of the reign of Emperor Kangxi, Matteo Ripa, an Italian missionary, wrote a letter to a colleague in Europe saying, "The Emperor likes European enamel paintings. He has asked European painters to paint enamels. We had to work with those humble Chinese artisans all day long. So we pretended that we had never learned how to paint enamels, and we refused to learn. The paintings we made were very bad, and as a result, the Emperor gave up." Under the direct supervision of Emperor Kangxi, works of cloisonné enamel porcelain were successfully produced before he passed away. These cloisonné enamel porcelain pieces were in the same style as copper-bonded cloisonné enamel pieces. They mostly featured flowers and were all made with imported enamel pigments.
Right in the heart of Beijing, it was the home of emperors for 500 years. It has witnessed China's major political events during imperial times and ever since. The Forbidden City, its 900 halls and palaces, constitute the largest wooden building complex in the world. And its palace museum houses a vast collection of imperial artworks and artifacts from Ming and Qing times. Watch the Forbidden City on Journeys in Time.